because I always cut this part out. So welcome to Tuesday Talk. I'm your host, Deanna Sizemore. We meet here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. to talk about what's going on in the world of benefits. And we are, today we're going to talk about the what ifs or the what nows or what when. I know we've got some people hopping on right now, so you haven't really missed anything. We're just getting started. And so if the president-elect holds true as President-elect Biden, there are lots of things in the air that could happen and could change. Some things impact HR, some things impact benefits. But at the onset of this conversation, let me say, without an executive order, the president can't change, drop, get rid of, do anything on his own. Or her own. They have to go through the proper channels. Now, they can issue an executive order, and we've seen more executive orders from President Trump than any president in the past. Well, let me back up. More executive orders that have made an impact and been newsworthy than other past presidents. I was watching a webinar yesterday where one of the consultants said, I had to go back to look to see what President Obama's executive orders were, and they didn't have the impact that some of the things do that President Trump has passed. So first and foremost, I want to talk about what's happening right now. Right now in the Supreme Court, they are hearing testimony in California versus Texas about the validity of separating the individual mandate from the entire ACA. A lot of the news outlets or articles that you read make it sound like that the hearing and the Supreme Court ruling is going to be whether to dismantle the ACA altogether. That's not the case. Could that happen? It could happen, but that's probably the farthest thing that will happen. What they are looking at is to see, by removing the individual mandate, did that basically disqualify the entire ACA law, or does it have severability? I think it's Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh both have said there might be some severability options there. So that would just mean that they would rule that, yeah, we can sever the individual mandate and the rest of the ACA can stand. I do know that Kavanaugh and Roberts both have said that they believe in keeping the pre-existing condition clause in place as it is now. President-elect Biden has talked about a few things as far as benefits goes. And one of those is he's potentially could reverse the executive order that President Trump set out on association plans. So this is outside of KTA, KCIT, the KBA, any of the associations that were in place prior to healthcare reform. This is new associations that were formed. I don't know if you recall, a couple of years ago, we had an executive order where those association plans could come together, like a group of dentists or a group of electricians, and put together a plan. So that could potentially get reversed. The other thing that could potentially get reversed is the transparency executive order that President Trump issued a couple of weeks ago. The transparency executive order, I'm not going to say it was a blip, but it really didn't catch a lot of attention because a lot of the attention right now is on this California versus Texas case where the severability of the individual mandate lies. But the transparency executive order issued some pretty tall orders, and I want to talk about that in a minute, of what is required of health carriers and health insurers and health plans. If you are a self-funded health plan, you are the issuer and the plan. So there are things that, as a self-funded health plan, you're going to have to do. Now, I say that with the executive order came out. We received final rules on October 30th. Anything could change between now and then. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. The other thing I think we'll probably see before President-elect Biden is sworn in is an extension of the FFCRA, paid sick leave and paid family leave, which is set to expire 12/31. of this year. I fully expect that they will extend that, especially with the cases of COVID surging high again, and us having this new wave of cases. The other thing that I really wanted to point out on President-elect Biden is, oh, if I could find my note here. He could very well issue an executive order on non-discrimination rules for fully insured group health plans. President Trump kind of struck that down and said, I'm sorry, he didn't strike it down. He put it on hold. We're not going to do non-discrimination on fully insured health plans. Forever and a day, we've done non-discrimination on self-funded health plans. ACA said it now applies to fully insured. Well, that's been put on hold, and it's been kicked down the road, kicked down the road, kicked down the road. The chances are likely that President-elect Biden will implement those rules. Could also see him expanding the scope and availability of ACA subsidies. One of the things he talked about in his campaign was lowering the Medicare age from 65 to 60. Obviously, we have issues and concerns there because we can't afford Medicare for those who are eligible for it now. How are we going to afford Medicare for a whole new wave of folks between 60 and 65? He does also believe in the individual mandate. Now, while the Supreme Court is hearing this case now, and again, it's California versus Texas, if the Democrats can control the Senate and the House, which they've won the House. We know what's going to happen in the House. We don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. We have a runoff election in Georgia in January. So we'll know then what happens with the Senate. But if they were to gain control of the Senate, retain the House, which they have, he very well could restore the individual mandate, which would do away with the case that's currently being heard. Now, the case that's currently being heard is not expected to have a judgment on it until June of 2021. The Supreme Court only hears a number of cases a year and only rules on a number of cases a year. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. It's, anything goes, unfortunately. There was some expansion of, let's see. Looking at expanding a Medicare-like option for health insurance. So President-elect Biden's campaign is that if you have employer insurance and it's not great, there's going to be a Medicare-like option that you could buy into for better benefits. Again, how's it going to happen? Is it going to happen quickly? I don't know. What I think we can expect once the president-elect is sworn in is the first thing we will see is a COVID task force, which he's already talked about. Everything will be COVID-centric and focused until this pandemic is under control, and hopefully one day we can get back to normal life. Once that's taken care of, then I think we'll start seeing moves on the ACA. The good thing is President-elect Biden is not a Medicare for all proponent per se. He also has made claims that, he's going to get rid of the tax cuts and he's going to eliminate some other tax breaks that President Trump put in. Again, he can't do this on his own. He either has to go through the Senate and the House, or he issues an executive order. And again, executive orders have their parameters around them. So, good afternoon, Deanna. Hope you're well. Or Dina. I want to say your name. I want to say my name. Hope you're doing good. I see we've got our Mount Sterling contingent here with Elaine and Dina. So, good to see you guys. So that's kind of where we are. Like, it's really up in the air. What now? I was telling another client earlier before we got started, I saw a meme on Facebook that said it feels like we're in divorce court all waiting to see who gets custody of us. And I really feel like that's where we are right now. I think it's pretty much a done deal that President-elect Biden will be our president, but we have to wait and see what happens with the court cases. We have to see, what happens in Georgia for the Senate, because that is a runoff there. I will say a couple of the Republican senators that were reelected have aligned with the Democratic views. So even though we've got control of the Senate, it's a very narrow margin, and it could still shift. I say we, Republicans have control of the Senate. There's a very narrow margin that could go either way, that, you know, it's not going to be a done deal if the Republicans are in control of the Senate, but it definitely is a help. So let me see. I want to talk a little bit about the transparency rule, as well as California versus Texas. So let's talk about California versus Texas first. So what the Supreme Court is looking at is they're considering an appeal of the ruling by the Fifth Circuit Court that partially upheld a lower court ruling. These judges and these courts found the individual mandate provisions of the ACA were unconstitutional. However, rather than striking down the whole law, like Judge Reed O'Connor did last year, the Fifth Circuit remanded part of the original ruling back to the district court. So what does that mean? That means the Fifth Circuit Court said, yeah, it's unconstitutional, but we can't strike it down, so go back and try again. So some of the questions that the Supreme Court is looking at is if the challengers to the ACA have a legal right to sue at all, if the individual mandate is unconstitutional, given the penalty for not complying is currently 0, if the mandate is invalid, can it be separated from the rest of the ACA? So that's what I was really talking about in the beginning, that severability. Can the ACA stand alone without the mandate? If the Supreme Court rules that Texas and other states challenging the ACA do not have a standing, whole controversy's over. ACA is as it stands. If they rule that the individual mandate is constitutional, the law stands. We think that's probably what's going to happen. If they rule the individual mandate is unconstitutional but severable from the ACA, then the current health insurance marketplace status quo stands. Nothing really changes. So, you know, what's the difference at this point? Basically, it's what the appellate court decided. They said mandate's unconstitutional, but we can separate it from the ACA. If they were to say it's unconstitutional, like I said, the law would currently stand as it is. It's 0 penalty. ACA continues on. We have Justice Amy Coney Barrett in now, newly sworn in. So she'll be part of that decision. So there's not a possibility for a tie. That was something we'd originally thought. It could drag on for years. Who knows what's going to happen there. So one of the things I noticed is if Supreme Court gets to the question of severability, and there's a reasonable chance the court will find most of the ACA can stand without the mandate, then again we go back to kind of status quo. I was going to say earlier this year, Justice Kavanaugh wrote a majority opinion to deem part of another act unconstitutional, but it didn't strike down the entire law. So one of the things the Supreme Court will look at is what happened in the past. It's what precedent or stare decisis was set to make them determine if this is unconstitutional or not. Can they split it out or not? So in the Supreme Court, the judges have different theories of how they rule on things, and one of those theories is precedent. So they're going to go back and say, okay, if we had cases like this in the past, what happened? The case that Justice Kavanaugh wrote about was one such case. There was part of an act that was unconstitutional, and they said the rest of the law can stand. So I know it's confusing. There's a lot of back and forth, but we really don't know right now. I just wanted to kind of give a heads up of what's going on, and you know, some things to look for and things to not panic over. Because again, I'm hearing a lot in the news like, oh, well, the Supreme Court's going to strike down the ACA. That's not what's happening. And they're just doing the hearing now. A judgment is not expected until next summer. So everything is moving at a snail's pace. And if President-elect Biden is truly our president, that can make a difference in what happens in the summer. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that. But again, I think the things to watch for is COVID, task force, FFCRA being extended, possibly having the transparency rules rolled back. So let's talk real briefly about the transparency rules, and then I'm going to let everyone go. Actually, I got one more thing to talk about. It's a PBM case. So on the transparency rules, what came out of that, again, is an executive order. Final rule was issued October 30th, and it created new transparency requirements for health insurance issuers and group health plan sponsors. It applies to almost all non-grandfathered health insurance plans and employers that sponsor group health coverage. Here's what we noticed out of this 500-page ruling. Health insurance issuers and group health plan sponsors have to issue to all plan participants a guide for critical advanced pricing information. The requirement should help drive down costs eventually. However, plans have a relatively short amount of time to build these systems. So by January 1st of 2022, all plans must disclose publicly in-network provider negotiated rates, historical out-of-network allowed amounts, and drug pricing information through 3 machine readable files posted on an intranet website. If you are a self-funded plan, you are the health insurance issuer and the plan sponsor. How's this going to work? Nobody knows. Beginning with plan or policy years after January 1st of 2023, plans have to ensure that plan participants can access detailed, personalized cost estimates for 500 designated shoppable services before they incur a claim. All the information must be on an internet website or if requested in paper form. By January 1st of 2024, all of the information must be available via an internet tool and on paper if requested for every covered item and service. Again, how's this going to work? I don't know. You know, when I think about transparency, I think about hospitals and doctors' offices listing a menu of services and their fees versus the health plan or health issuer having to list these services out. Obviously, if you're a self-funded health plan, you're going to rely on your third-party administrator to help get those rates in place. And who knows, maybe the TPA will do it for you. No idea what's going to happen there. If you're fully insured, you're really waiting on the health insurance carrier at that point. So think of the Anthems, Uniteds, Humanas of the world, all the plans they have, all the employers they have, all the providers they service, having to issue everything that's covered, the negotiated rate, the in-network rate, and the out-of-network rate. It's going to be insane. What we don't know is any employer plan sponsor who can access all the information must make it available for disclosure before a claim is incurred. How are we going to know what that is? The information employer group plan sponsors must make available includes estimated cost sharing liability for the specific procedure and condition, the amount of cost share liability a participant has incurred to date relative to their maximum out-of-pocket limit and any deductible, the negotiated rate of the carrier or group plan as agreed to pay a network provider for the specific covered service and plan participant, the maximum reimbursement amount that the carrier or group plan would pay if it was out of network, an explanation of any prerequisite for the person's specific requests such as step therapy, prior authorization, etc. A notice warning about balance billing to explain that the plan is merely providing personalized estimates and actual costs may vary. So I know you've probably heard in the news, you hear a lot about balance billing, and it's a big initiative with the National Association of Health Underwriters. So we're going to see more about balance billing. The rule allows employers with fully insured group coverage to transfer full liability to the health insurance carrier. However, it does not do that for self-funded or level-funded plans. So it's going to get really messy. There's going to be some transparency obligations that have to be met. It says the administration acknowledges in the rule that people just don't want to compare prices. They want quality data too. So we don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be really interesting. And with all that being said, someone could challenge this in federal court and it gets held up and it doesn't apply until it gets through a federal court process. Now, again, that could take years. So I wouldn't panic just yet, but have it in the back of your mind, especially if you're a self-funded plan. And then I would also say, just keep it back there. Don't worry about it right now, because if we truly are under President-elect Biden, he could do away with this. I mean, we just, again, it's the what now? We don't know what we don't know. The last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll let everybody go, is there is a case in the Supreme Court right now that is Rutledge versus PCMA, and it has to do with regulating pharmacy benefit managers. And it's about pricing and how that can maybe let's see, hold on, how it has an impact on the health plan cost. PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, if you're self-funded, you may have a separate pharmacy benefit manager versus one that's all tied together, like an Anthem might be all tied together, or maybe you've got a third-party ABC administration company and they use TrueRx for the pharmacy benefit. They tend to operate in a cloud of secrecy. Like, you really don't know what they're charging, what the fees are, what that looks like. What this court is doing is saying, or what this court case is doing, is they're looking to see if states can address pharmacy benefit manager company behavior, and if they can, will they be free to act with impunity when it comes to prescription drug pricing reimbursement? They could, the Supreme Court could allow states to regulate PBMs, and if that happens, we will be flooded with state level measures to control reimbursement rates and create more transparency in PBM contracts. So that's where we would see transparency on the pharmacy side. This case isn't getting a lot of attention. Not sure how it's going to end up either. It was brought before the court. I think it started out of Arkansas. I was trying to see if it was under Arkansas. So again, we're watching that as well. We're watching the argument on the ACA validity of having the individual mandate pulled out. Just a lot of stuff going on. I was hoping to bring like good news today and say, hey, everything's great. No, it's just everything is up in the air. But again, I'm going to go back and just reiterate things I would be worried about right now, watching for COVID transition team, which Biden's already in process of working on. COVID relief measures. I expect FFCRA to be expanded beyond 1231. There may be an extension on the business loans, and I forgot the acronym. There's a lot of acronyms in my head. There could be an extension on that, the small business loan that we got through the CARES Act. And really, I think that's what we'll be seeing in the onset, maybe even the first 6 months. There's a lot of measures and a lot of things going on, as we all are well aware, between the, racism and police issues and all that. So I don't know how focused he's going to be on the Affordable Care Act. So we'll wait and see what happens, and hopefully by January 20th of 2021, we'll know for sure who our president is going to be. We'll know if the Senate has control of the House, and can maybe paint a better picture of what benefits are going to look like going forward. So with that, I'm going to close, but I want to ask if you've got any questions. Please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. If you have questions that you don't want to ask in the chat, feel free to email me or call me. I'll be happy to answer those. There's no dumb questions. I'm not promising I'll know the answer, because this is crazy right now. So I think we can all attest that this has been the craziest year ever. I mean, the hits keep coming. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out, and hopefully we'll be able to have some good news amidst the chaos. So Biden to defund ACA. That's interesting. That is interesting. Wow. I'll have to look into that. Thanks, Tina. I'm telling you, you all, it is just, like I said, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how things play out. I was going to see if I had anything pop in. I am on a National Association of Health Underwriters call later today, so hopefully they'll have some information for us that I can help pass along as well. So, insane. Anybody have any questions? And if you all hear my dogs barking, I apologize. Other dogs are not allowed to walk in front of my house. So, if you're working from home, you understand what I'm talking about. So. Let's see if I find anything on this ACA thing while I wait for questions. Thank you. I'm glad. I've got 2 Chihuahuas and a Hound Beagle mix. The Hound Beagle mix is a puppy, so he's with the dog walker right now because I can't get anything done with him. He wants to be in my lap, and he's 30 pounds. So the Chihuahuas, they bark at every leaf, squirrel, person, car, mailman. Our poor mailman, I'm surprised he doesn't have a heart attack every time he steps on our porch, but maybe he's used to it by now. So, and I was looking, I don't see anything on this defund ACA, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm going to keep looking, see if there's anything popping up about it. I did just find an article. No, that's about the Senate majority. Again, we're waiting on Georgia to figure out if we have if Republicans have the Senate majority or not. I keep saying we. I don't mean to do that. Bim is neutral. We do not have a preference. So, yep, that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. So, unless you've got any questions, I'm going to sign off for now. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Enjoy this beautiful weather that we've got. Of course, allergies are crazy and insane with the weather change, but it's beautiful. So get outside, get some fresh air, and I will talk to you all in a week. Have a great one. Or, oh, I'm sorry, 2 weeks. Not a week, 2 weeks. Talk to y'all soon. Thank you, Diana. You too.